these big conferences for men's. Promise is something. Promise Keepers, thank you, whoever said that. Anyhow, this group out of Chicago rented our conference center for that weekend because their men were coming to Pontiac, Michigan to Promise Keepers. I'm sitting in my office checking them in and talking to the guy who was in charge of things, and all of a sudden Wade sticks his head around the corner of my office and goes, "Greg?" Now, we hadn't seen each other about 10 years at that time, and he was out in the chapel area outside of my office talking to some of the guys in his church. He heard my voice and recognized it and couldn't believe it. So he had to come and look to see if it really was me. And you know what? Seeing was believing. In that case, hearing and seeing was believing. Here's Mary. She heard Jesus' voice. She recognized it. And she went to the other disciples in verse 18 and said, "I have seen the Lord." Seeing is believing. The disciples in verse 10 had gone away to their own homes, back to their normal lives. Now, it kind of in the back of my mind just strikes me that if they really had believed Jesus was the Son of God, they wouldn't have disappeared. They would have immediately gone out and started proclaiming the gospel. But they went back to their normal lives. But on the evening of the resurrection, verse 20 says that Jesus appeared to them, and when they saw his hands with the holes in them, and they saw his side with a hole in it, what does that verse say? They saw and believed. Seeing is believing. You know, seeing is not always the physical. The disciples were aware of Jesus' presence in his life, their lives every day, because he was there with them physically. But here he was now coming to them, not in the form they were used to. And as he left, he sent his Holy Spirit. And so it becomes feeling is believing. The knowledge that God's Spirit is with us and in our lives, and yes, we see the results of our prayers. We see miracles happen. We see lives transformed, and that still seeing is believing. But his Spirit coming to us is feeling is believing. Jesus looked at his disciples, and he said something to them very important. Verse 21, "Peace be unto you." We see miracles. We see answers to prayers. But the most important thing for us today is we have that abiding presence that brings peace. Peace be unto you.